Hello students, today we are going to discuss about double fertilization that takes place in case of flowering plants. So let's start with it. So students, we all know what sexual reproduction is, right? Sexual reproduction is nothing but the union of male and female gametes which results in the formation of a zygote, okay? So in case of flowering plants, that is in angiosperms, we observe that fertilization tends to take place twice. Why so? Because each and every pollen grain contains two male gametes, and those two male gametes fertilize two different structures, and hence double fertilization. This process was first discovered by Navaschin. It was first discovered by a person known as Navaschin. Okay, now let's discuss about the entire mechanism, how double fertilization takes place. So obviously we'll know entire fertilization process would take place inside the female part. The female part in a flower is known as the gynoecium. Now, unit of gynoecium is carpel or pistil. Now let's draw, or let's see how a carpel or pistil looks like. Okay, so this is a structure of a typical carpel or pistil. It is a carpel, or you can say pistil. It has got three distinct regions. This one is called the stigma, followed by style, and the bulged basal portion is known as ovary. Okay, ovary contains a structure inside it, and this structure is none other than the ovule. Okay, the ovule will have another structure inside, which will be called the embryo sac. So embryo sac is the structure where we have our female gamete, that is the egg. Everything takes place inside the embryo sac. Okay, matlab the two male gametes will enter the embryo sac to further process or to further employ the process of double fertilization. Now let's see a magnified version of how an embryo sac looks like. So if we draw an embryo sac, it has got three cells above, three cells below, and two nucleus at the center. The above three cell is known as the antipodal cells. Antipodal cells. These two cells are known as the synergids. Synergids. This one is our female gamete, that is the egg cell. And these two nuclei are called polar nuclei. So this is the structure of a typical embryo sac. Why have I drawn this? Why did I draw this structure? Because the entire double fertilization process will take place inside this embryo sac, because the male gametes will tend to come in contact with the female gamete, okay? But we know that how many male gametes are there? There are in total 2 male gametes. So these 2 male gametes will fuse with 2 different structure. One structure we know, that is the egg cell. One male gamete will fuse with the egg cell, which will result in the formation of a zygote. But that's only one fertilization. The topic says double fertilization. Now let's see what is the other structure that the second male gamete fuses with. Okay, now the male gamete will come through the pollen tube. This is the way through which the 2 male gametes will travel. Okay, so the 2 male gametes will travel and finally come inside the embryo sac. The first male gamete will fuse with the egg cell. The first male gamete will fuse with what? Will fuse with the egg cell. First male gamete will fuse with the egg cell, that is a female gamete, to give rise to the zygote. Clear? Now we know the chromosome set in case of gametes is always half, that is N. It is haploid. N from male, N from female. So N plus N, the resultant structure, that is the zygote, will be twice N, that is diploid. This zygote will further develop into the embryo, which is again a twice N structure. So this is the first fertilization process. The first male gamete will combine or will fuse with the egg cell to give rise to what? A diploid zygote. And this first fertilization process is known as syngamy. Syngamy. Okay, so this first fertilization process is syngamy. Okay, now let's see what is the second fertilization process. How does it look like, or what are the structures which fuse during the second fertilization process? Okay, now only one gamete is remaining. First male gamete has already fused, which resulted in the formation of the zygote through the process of syngamy, which is the first fertilization process. Now the turn comes for the second male gamete. It will travel, enter the embryo sac, but it have seen that the egg cell is already fused with the first male gamete. So what it will do? The second male gamete will come and fuse with what? The polar nuclei. So the second male gamete fuses with the 2 polar nuclei. Why have I written 2? Because there are 2 polar nuclei. 2 polar nuclei. And these 2 structures results into the formation of primary endosperm nucleus. Primary endosperm nucleus. In short, we can call it as PEN, pen. Okay, now let's see what will be the chromosome number in case of primary endosperm nucleus, or PEN. Okay, so we know, I have already said that male gamete have half the chromosome set, that is it is haploid, N. The 2 polar nuclei will be N, but since it is 2, there are 2 polar nuclei, so it will be twice N, 1 for each. So N plus N, twice N. N plus twice N will be thrice N. So the resultant structure, which is the PEN, primary endosperm nucleus, will have triploid chromosome, that is 3 sets of chromosome. Likewise, as the zygote gave rise to the embryo, the primary endosperm nucleus will give rise to the endosperm, which is again thrice N. So we have seen that the 2 male gametes, in case of the first male gamete, it fused with the egg cell, which gave rise to the diploid zygote, and this first fertilization process is known as syngamy. Whereas for the second male gamete, it fused with the 2 polar nuclei, which results into the formation of primary endosperm nucleus, and finally into what? Endosperm. since here in the second fertilization process, we see that there are three structures uniting. One male gamete and two polar nuclei. So in total, three structures are uniting. So this fertilization process is known as triple fusion. The second fertilization process is known as triple fusion. And since syngamy and triple fusion takes place simultaneously, that is, syngamy and triple fusion takes place simultaneously inside the embryo sac, this entire process is known as what? Double fertilization. That is, fertilization takes place twice. This one, syngamy, leads to the formation of the zygote. Triple fusion leads to the formation of the primary endosperm nucleus, or the PEN. So this is all about double fertilization. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you and have a nice day ahead. Thank you.